Today I'm going to do a video on replacing a kitchen faucet. This faucet here works, but the mechanism inside of it has stopped twisting, as you can see here. So that's probably due to chemicals in the water. This house is on a well, so a couple of things we're going to have handy. Lots of cloths, just in case we get some water leaks to hang up or clean up. A couple of containers to catch any water spillage, and a couple of miscellaneous tools we'll use throughout the video. So we have two valves, one for the hot water, one for the cold water. I'm going to start by shutting the water off here. Now I'm always very gentle when I go to do this, because the way I look at it, these taps have sat here for years and years, not being turned, and as you can see there's a little resistance there, so I just very gently start to turn those. Already we can see we have some water coming out there, so I'm going to grab one of those containers that I should have put underneath in the first place, but anyway, like I said, these taps have been just in one position for years, so start to work on them and things might be a little sticky. So there we go. I turned that clockwise to shut it down. Now I'll shut the other one off here. Actually, I'll move my container under this one because it stopped leaking over there now. And again, trying to put the pressure on it, but be kind of gentle here. Just easing the force onto it. And that's pretty sticky. This water is hard in this house. It's on a well. A lot of chemicals in it. So anyway, shut off your two valves there. After you do that, just go up and verify that actually everything is off. So should be a little come out here now, or not. I've turned that. So I turn it to the hot, turn it to the cold, just to make sure. And I now know that the supply is off to this faucet. This tap here has a pull-out faucet on it, so there's a weight hanging under the sink to make sure that that pulls back in. There's two Phillips head, well actually one Phillips head screwdriver there, the other one, or screw there, the other one has fallen out or something. So I'm going to take this weight off of there just to make it a little easier to work around this thing. And that's pretty much all there is there. Take that screw out, and at least then you don't have to have this weight banging around while you're working on the tap. Okay, the next step, we're going to disconnect the connections for the hot and cold water supply on the existing faucet, but I'm just going to show you on the new faucet basically what we're doing. It might be easier to tell. These are the two fittings here that we have to, they're connected obviously to the new faucet, so we have to disconnect those on the existing ones. So we go underneath the sink here. What we just looked at on the new faucet is here and here. So what we got to do is take a wrench, hold this one in place, and then here's our water supply pipe here. We got to remove that. So I'm going to see if I can hold the camera and do this. It might be different on your particular faucet, but it's a 15mm, well actually that's a little loose, but that's, I couldn't find one that was tighter than that, but I'm going to use a 15mm wrench. Be careful there because you don't want to strip anything, but for lack of finding the proper size, I'm going to use a 15. And down here, this is a 22 millimeter. So you hold that. Oops, it's gonna be difficult to tape. Basically, you hold this one in place on the top and take your bottom one and turn it. Hopefully this will show. You can see that gone counterclockwise as you look up. So now I just loosened that off before we did this. So if I take this wrench off of here, you should be able to see what I'm talking about. Hold the top in place and turn that off. Make sure you got your little pan down below or whatever, or be prepared to clean up the water once you're got these off. And just wiggle that gently. See that nut comes out of there. And then just kind of gently maneuver that off. I'm going to have to stop recording for that. Okay, once it comes out, that's what you got. I just basically wiggle this back and forth gently, making sure to hold the pipe up there so I didn't break it, and then just wiggle it back and forth until it kind of released. So that's one of my water supply connections removed off of the pipe going up to the faucet. Okay, so our two water supply lines are disconnected, and now, if you can see up here, right at the bottom of the faucet, this is keeping the faucet connected to the countertop itself. There's these two Phillips head screwdrivers, so I definitely cannot hold the camera and remove those, but you're going to want to take those out. Remember, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, so you're going to be going lefty-loosey or counterclockwise. Okay, with those two Phillips head screws loosened off, now this large nut that the screws are in will now turn. So I'll go counterclockwise and remove that, like so. Okay, I removed that large nut. You can see that's hanging there, but now this tap won't pull up through, and the reason being is that this big nut won't go down over all these parts hanging off of the faucet. So what I probably should have done was removed this nut that I have my finger on there. You see this, the hose for the weight, because the faucet is pull out, is connected to this. So I'm going to remove that now. Okay, removing that faucet weight was a little easier than I thought. There's just a Phillips head screwdriver on the side of it. When I turned it around, I spun it around, and then it just popped right off like so. And there's the hole that I removed the Phillips head screw from. So I'm just going to compact all these fittings together, because this faucet is toast, so I don't really care about what state it's in. Get them all together so that they're small enough to pull up through, and I'm going to remove that nut that we loosened off before over the workstation. Okay, I got the nut slid off the bottom. Now with a little luck, this faucet should theoretically pull up through. Looks good so far. Alright. Okay, so the old faucet is off, and now comes the fun part. Just gonna have to take a couple minutes, read the instructions for your new faucet. Like already, I'm not going to go into the details of this particular faucet because they're all probably a little bit different. But anyway, I got to take this off of the new one and go through the process here. Okay, so on this unit, this piece here is going to go over like that. The faucet will be going obviously down through the middle. I'm going to have to go underneath the sink. And there's a couple of bolts that are going to go in here. I have to drill another hole here because the old faucet didn't require it. But anyway, I'll drill a hole there. And what's going to happen is these two pieces, these two bolts are going to screw in like this. They got a little bit of a squared off head, so you can tighten them in. You want to be careful not to tighten that too much. And then, near as I can tell from the instructions, it's going to be a couple of plastic bolts go on like that to tighten them up from underneath. Okay, once you get your pilot hole drilled, and you can see that I kind of screwed up a little bit. I have two of them because I drilled my first one and then I realized that was off a little bit. But anyway, that'll guide the drill, that's the bit that's in your mandrel there, in nicely. So once you have that in place, just get a good grip on your drill, start to operate it before it actually hits the surface. It's going to be guided in by the bit. So it'll turn in your pilot hole. Don't get too aggressive. I started to talk there and then I realized I couldn't be heard. So I was basically saying don't get too aggressive, just let it kind of find its way through, maybe move the drill back and forth slightly, and that'll basically get the job done. Okay, so like I was saying, tighten those mounting bolts up, but very careful doing it because it doesn't look like it's particularly strong in this mounting unit here. So then we're going to put our nuts on from underneath the sink. Just move that around a little bit till it seems to be properly placed. And again, like I said, we'll take these nuts from below and tighten them on. So, from underneath the sink, hopefully you can see this. I'm just gonna get these nuts on here, turning them clockwise, and these are only made of plastic. So, once you get them up there where they tight, just tighten one a bit, then go to the other one, tighten it a little bit, and go back and forth like that. And just be careful because you don't want to break these. So we got them tightened up a bit, and I tighten one on that side. I go over to the other one, and just back and forth like that till you get them slimmed up. Okay, so the instructions tell me to take the rubber washer, the metal washer, and the nut and put them on the body here. Now I'm looking at the box and I can't find them, and it turns out that it's already on here, so I got to take these off, put the faucet down through the hole of our sink, and then put these on from underneath. Okay, so I'm going to feed all these pieces down through, now that we have that nut that I mentioned off of there on the two washers. And I'm going to need two hands, I think, to do it. Maybe not. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to stop taping. Anyway, I'm going to pop that down through the hole there. Okay, faucet's in place. Now we got to go down below. And for this particular faucet, as per the instructions, we're going to feed the rubber washer, the metal washer, and the nut all over. See if I can get this on here. Those are going to go over this black hose and over our two connections to the supply lines. I'll do that, and then take the plastic washer, the metal washer, and the nut are now connected to the bottom of the faucet, so just tighten that nut up. Okay, that nut is fully tightened up there now. The only purpose of that is to keep the faucet stable up above, so if you don't get that quite tight enough, it's not like anything is going to leak. You can always just go back and tighten up a little bit more. I'm a firm believer in just tightening things as much as I figure they need, as opposed to taking the risk of over tightening and breaking something. You can always go back and tighten up your fittings or whatever later on. So anyway, that's tightened up there now. And from up above, we see that as I tightened it, it actually turned the whole faucet. That's simple enough. We just kind of move that back into place. There, straight. Okay, on this unit, instructions tell me to screw this onto this black hose here, which is the, let's get that tightened up here, which is the one that's going to hold our weight. So tighten that up. And then we have, hopefully you can see this, there's our 2 water lines, and there's this other line here. So we take this, and there's a tab on the end, right there, and we kind of line up this part here, and let's see, that should push right up onto there. Maybe if I turn this way. There, you heard that click there. That's gone there good. And to release it, you got to push those tabs in. But anyway, so there, now that hose is connected there. There's our 2 hot and cold water lines. The other end of that we just connected is that. Now we're ready to connect our water supply lines. So just going to get that into place. The nut, screw that on. I'm going to stop recording because I want to hold this in such a way as it's not going to put any undue pressure on it, and I'm going to need to hold up there with one wrench while tightening this nut here with another, so I'll have to hold that steady with a wrench like we covered in the first part of the video. Okay, I got the 2 water supply lines tightened up. A little hint that I noticed while doing this is if you can kind of keep a bit of pressure on a hose, if you have this type of a water supply line, pull that down a bit, put some pressure just straight down as you're tightening up that nut, and it kind of seems to keep everything in place. Anyway, then we got to put this weight on. Again, the other side of this weight just got 2 Phillips head screws right there. I'll put that on. Okay, I tightened up the 2 Phillips head screws that are on that weight. So now it's time for the big test. So again, very gently, because as I say, it's not too often that a person turns off the water supply lines to their tap. Just turn on these 2 taps on your supply line. Once you get it kind of to the end, then just turn it back just a little bit. I'll do that to the other one. Okay, so both supply lines are turned on. The moment of truth here. Alright. Now let's mess around with this top a little bit. See how it actually functions anyway. So I'm going to let that run, and then you want to go down, take a good look down below, make sure you don't have any leaks. If you do, turn off your water supply again, and tighten up your nuts and that kind of thing. Seems to be okay. I don't see any leaks here. That's about it for this.